Hi guys and welcome to the video. So, Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1, Episode 7. Wow, 7 episodes already of this show. I can't quite believe it myself. As usual, I'm going to give you a basic rundown of the episode. I'll take you through what happens, and then at the end I shall give you some of my thoughts. And oh boy, do I have some thoughts on this episode. So, full spoilers ahead. Spoilers are coming. So if you don't want any spoilers, zip off, watch the episode, and come back and see what my thoughts are. If you don't care about spoilers, that's absolutely fine. Stick around because here it comes. So, episode opens with T'Pring, and she's talking in her log about Spock, the fact that he's half human, half Vulcan, and how much of a struggle it is. She decides she's going to try and spice things up. She wants to appeal to his human side because she thinks that Spock is wanting to do the same. So she contacts Spock. She talks about, trying to sex it up with him. And he says, well, the distance is going to make that difficult. However, I would much prefer to be there. Perhaps it's something we could do together. And then it cuts to him having a conversation with Nurse Chapel. And he basically says, look, I'm not really interested in exploring my human side. T'Pring wants to, though. And, Nurse Chapel gives him some advice. At that point, I'm really struggling to give a shit about Spock and T'Pring. I'm not really that interested. With regards to the character of Spock, his half human side, his half Vulcan side, it has been massively explored in Star Trek, and this show is not adding anything new to it, in my opinion. We cut to a scene at the dinner table where we're introduced to this character called Dr. Aspen. There is a fair amount of identity politics in this episode. It's there, in some ways it's subtle, and in some ways it's obvious. I want to more focus on the story in this episode, which I think was pretty poor. Dr. Aspen, she's a former Starfleet counselor, and she is trying to get the Enterprise to help out with a convoy of ships, colonist ships. And these colonists are outside Federation space on these ships that are losing power, so the Enterprise has got to go and help them. The Enterprise reaches the coordinates and finds nothing but debris, so they surmise that 2 of the ships have been destroyed, but the colonists could have evacuated to a 3rd vessel. Cuts to credits, and once we return to this episode, the Enterprise is navigating through the asteroid belt where they found the destroyed vessels, and they get trapped in a Tholian style web and promptly get out of it because Spock needs to take a guess. Not his strongest suit, as has been previously referenced in other Star Trek episodes. He makes a guess and he gets them out of the situation. There's no real explanation as to why the Tholian web is there. There's no Tholians in this episode. It is just there. Then it cuts to a scene between Dr. Aspen and Spock, and there's some comparisons made between Spock's half of being half human, half Vulcan, and obviously the whole transgender issue. Cuts back to the bridge, and Ortegas is carefully navigating the asteroid field while they search for the other ship. The Enterprise actually finds the 3rd colony ship, and Pike decides to lead an away team. Again, because they've got to get him off the ship and put him in a hostage situation. God damn it. I'm terribly sorry. They board this ship and there's no colonists there. They fall into a trap and they get captured. Pike, the Belter, they get captured, and pirates board the Enterprise and take over the Enterprise. Because it's that easy. They just come aboard, start shooting, and take over the Enterprise. So the Enterprise is in a hostile takeover situation. Now, this is a really good opportunity to get the female officers of the ship into a firefight where they kick some booty. And Spock kicks some booty as well and saves Dr. Aspen, gets her off the bridge in the midst of this takeover. It cuts to Pike having the crap beaten out of him by a Ryan guy with a mullet. To be fair, I'd have really liked it if this guy was the antagonist of the episode, but it's just simply not the case, as I'll get to a little later in the video. He's trying to convince Pike to give up the command codes of the Enterprise. Pike's not playing ball. Spock and Dr. Aspen are making their way through the Enterprise, try and get to sickbay because Dr. Aspen's been shot in the shoulder with a weapon that's set on stun. Pike's being interrogated, and Pike manages to convince the pirate guy that instead of giving him the command codes to his ship, he could cook them all a nice meal, because what they're eating is just really not very tasty at all. And one of this guy's pirate crew members manages to convince this guy to allow Pike to make them a meal, and saying it better be good. I still want those command codes. I can't believe that this is in the episode. There's Chapel sneaking around the corridors of the Enterprise, trying to regain some sort of control and trying to get some help. She gets caught by two individuals and then gets into a fist fight with these guys, manages to put them under with a hyperspray. These guys are armed and absolutely useless at what they do. Instead of shooting her on sight, stunning her, putting her away, they just allow her to kick ass her way out of the situation. Cuts to Pike, and he's making a nice meal for the space pirates, gathering all the information that he can in the most intelligent way, and trying to convince this space pirate that he is not, that he can't really get hold of the Enterprise and sell the Enterprise, because the Federation will come after him for the Enterprise. And he says, well, I'm going to sell it on to someone. And he says, well, do you think people are really going to want, the Enterprise? Consider it's going to be hot property. It's going to have some heat behind it. He says, oh, I'm going to sell your crew. And he says, well, you can sell us to the Klingons. And that's how he manages to surmise that the crew of this pirate ship aren't exactly loyal to the captain. It's a freaking goddamn pirate ship. Of course they're not loyal to the captain. They're pirates. They're fucking pirates. Anyway, Spock manages to get Dr. Aspen to the medical bay, and he's trying to regain control of the ship. He's trying to determine what the situation is. This Dr. Aspen is trying to convince Spock that they've got to abandon ship. They've got to get off this ship. Spock, of course, isn't going to do that. Comes back to the colonist ship where the away team are being held, and Pike informs his crew they're going to try a technique they've used before, which is trying to start a mutiny amongst the pirates. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this either. Fucking hell. Right. Cuts back to the Enterprise, and Spock and Dr. Aspen are trying to take engineering, except Nurse Chapel is in engineering. She's managed to down all of the pirates that were in engineering because she's like super amazing and super awesome. She did all this with a hyperspray. She did all this with a hyperspray. And a lot of punches and kicks. Spock, like an idiot, releases the command codes and transfers all command functions to engineering. And then in a twist that I saw coming a freaking mile away, turns out Dr. Aspen is a bad guy, girl, person. And she's behind all of this, behind the space pirates, behind everything. Because she wants Spock. Spock is now the hostage. And the ransom is actually a rehab prisoner who's this character's husband. And she wants him released from rehab. She has wanted to do all this to get hold of Spock. To get hold of Spock in order to convince T'Pring to release this prisoner. T'Pring has to bring this prisoner to Dr. Aspen, otherwise Spock's going to get hurt. How far T'Pring is away from the Enterprise at this point, considering the Enterprise is in non-Federation space, you know what, I will get to that later. Let's just get through this breakdown. T'Pring goes out to Spock. Whether or not she's brought this prisoner is not made particularly clear. Dr. Aspen, whose actual name is revealed, is Captain Angel. Of course it is. So Captain Angel is trying to obviously get this prisoner released. She says T'Pring really cares for you. Of course she's going to release this prisoner. Spock says she's not going to jeopardize her career. Cuts back to Pike and the prisoners, and Pike manages to convince this one crewman to start a mutiny and he does it in like 3 minutes. He does it in like 3 minutes. He convinces this person to commit mutiny. Cuts back to the Enterprise, and T'Pring has arrived with the prisoner, although that's not actually made clear whether she has the prisoner with her. there's no proof that she's got this prisoner with her. Spock knows that T'Pring is going to have to jeopardize her career by handing this prisoner over. Her career is going to be over. It's going to be destroyed. And she's doing it because she cares about Spock. She's his girlfriend. This next bit is really weird. Spock breaks up with T'Pring by this ruse where Nurse Chapel and him are having an affair, and he kisses Nurse Chapel on the bridge to really convince T'Pring that, they're no longer together. He's with Nurse Chapel, and he's really happy. And then T'Pring goes, "Oh, well, okay, fine, fair enough. I'm breaking up with you. Our bond is over." And all this to stop the prisoner from being transferred over to Dr. Aspen with Captain Angel. Captain Angel gets angry, goes to destroy T'Pring's ship, and then Captain Pike has commandeered the pirate ship and basically damages the Enterprise a little bit. And she's forced to stand down because she's outgunned. The space pirates have got nowhere to go, nothing to do. But she's got somewhere to go, she's got somewhere to be. And she transports off and goes to her own little ship, leaving the space pirates to be captured. She then buggers off in her own ship. The mutiny's not over, but my interest in this episode is we go back on board the Enterprise. Pike does an impression of a pirate. He's promptly told to stop by his first officer and told to stop being so silly. Cuts to Spock in his quarters. T'Pring says that, I know it was a ruse. I know you really love me. Spock is really convincing, and he says, yeah, I really do. I've got no feelings for Nurse Chapel. It was all a ruse. They get back together and have some hanky-panky time, or at least that's what we're led to believe. He goes to see Nurse Chapel, and basically friend zones the shit out of Nurse Chapel. Nurse Chapel acts okay with it, although we know she's not okay with it. And it's all this relationship angst, this love triangle bollocks that has been seen so many times before, and he's quite frankly tiresome in a Star Trek show. He reveals to Nurse Chapel, he pretty much knows by the name of this prisoner that was going to be released, who this prisoner is. It's an alias. This name is an alias for his half-brother, Cyborg. Cyborg. And that's the end of the episode. Wow, that was a real tough breakdown to get through. So, my thoughts on this episode? This episode was so bad. It was so terrible. And this is my opinion. If you're watching my reviews, hopefully you've come to hear what I have to say about the episode. If you enjoyed this episode, that's fantastic. By all means, go wild with it. Enjoy it. But I just didn't. And I was really starting to warm up to this show. But this episode has proven that they just can't write for shit. The Enterprise being lured into a trap outside Federation space. Where have we seen that before? Oh, it's not old Trek. I mean, we've seen elements of that, but this is Star Trek Beyond. It's just been Star Trek Beyond. The Enterprise is lured into a trap by an individual who wants something else. The Enterprise is lured and lured out into non-Federation space. Now, Spock says something in this episode where it's like, we need permission from Starfleet to enter non-Federation space. Well, okay, so what do they do when they want to go and explore outside Federation space? They're going to explore. Surely everything in Federation space has been explored. I don't understand it. I mean, not every world follows the Federation's laws. That's what makes it so diverse and so interesting to explore. Strange, new worlds. But it's just gone Discovery Season 3 and introduced space frickin' pirates. I don't know what New Trek's fascination is with space pirates. I'm quite frankly sick and tired of it. It's space pirates again, and it's an Orion with a mullet. The Orions were never that big of a problem. You had the Orion Syndicate, was quite popular in things like Deep Space Nine because it was on the frontier of Starfleet, and the Orion Syndicate was this mass criminal organization that the Federation sort of monitored, but turned a blind eye to, I suppose, just thought that, well, they're not in our jurisdiction as long as they don't affect the Federation in any way, which they did on several occasions. But the whole space pirate thing, it's Discovery. And this episode is written like a goddamn Discovery episode. Why would this Dr. Aspen character want to go to all that trouble to get a prisoner released when she's imitating a freaking counselor. She's taken the identity of the real Dr. Aspen, and her name's Captain Angel. She's managed to get on board the Enterprise. She convinces a Starfleet captain to go on a relief mission. The captain hasn't contacted the Federation, apparently because it takes 2 days for subspace communications at that distance. Nothing makes sense. Why does it take so long for the signal to get to the Federation? She manages to convince Pike to go and rescue this ship like she's on some sort of mission. I don't understand how any of this came about. I don't understand how any of this happened. There's no setup. It's simply character leads Enterprise into a trap. Enterprise gets into a trap, gets taken over, and then gets taken back. There's no logical progression. There's no logical explanation for why any of it happened in the first place. Why she doesn't go to the facility under the guise of a counselor and say, look, I'm a counselor. I want to meet the, and stage a prison breakout. She needs to get Spock, take Spock hostage to convince T'Pring to release a goddamn prisoner that is Cyborg. I had high hopes for this show, I really did. But this episode is just, it's probably the worst thing I've seen from New Trek. It's just a terrible, terrible episode. Again, shoot me down. It's just, if you want, that's my opinion. It's what I thought. This episode sucked. It was just, there's nothing made sense in it at all. It really tried to be clever and intelligent in what it was doing, but it just failed. Why they thought Star Trek Beyond would be a good thing to pull from, I have no idea. It's beyond me. See what I did there? The whole Spock T'Pring thing, I'm kind of over it. They're not really introducing anything new for a show that has strange new worlds. We're not going in exploring strange new worlds. This episode wasn't about exploration. It was about the ship getting taken over very easily by space pirates, which, were done piss poorly in Discovery and are done piss poorly in this episode. You contrast the Strange New Worlds to Star Trek Picard. Now, Star Trek Picard, certainly his first season was crap. His second season was just abysmal. It was absolutely abysmal. But yeah, I agree. Strange New Worlds is miles better than Discovery or Picard. But it still has those issues, those elements that made Discovery and Picard shit. With the same issues with the writing. You had bumbling old Picard going, things are happening, and I've got to get out of this situation. It's terribly, terribly contrived, but I'm going to make it to the end of the season. I was able to get through that season simply because there was so much to ridicule. And so much to point out, so many problems that the story didn't make any sense. Picard just felt like a passenger in his own show. The show wasn't being driven by Picard. Discovery wasn't about discovering anything. It was about discovering emotions. And everybody cries because everybody needs to have a good cry. You get Burnham just crying every episode, and everyone's suffering from, just angsty teen angst stuff. Yeah, Picard, who was a blithering idiot, bumbling through his own show, being talked down to, being beaten down by every single character. It wasn't about me. It was about how to put me down. You have Strange New Worlds, which the title is, and the premise of the show is to explore strange new worlds, to go places that they've not gone before, that we as an audience haven't gone before. Come up with something new that respects what came before. But this episode didn't do anything new, and it didn't have any decent explanation as how they got from point A to point bloody C. They had no explanations for anything that happened, really. It was just a chance for them to put Cyborg at the end. It was a terrible episode. And this review took ages to film, because every time I started it, I was trying so hard to be fair to it, but I can't be fair to this pile of crap. It was a terrible episode. As I've said, I was really starting to warm up to this show, but this was a complete failure, this episode. It was so terrible. There's so many problems. I probably missed a load of problems out. It's like T'Pring. She apparently brings Cyborg with her, to the Enterprise, which is outside of Federation territory, and she's on a rehabilitation moon facility that's on a moon. What's the distance there? Because, you know, the Enterprise is in a hostage situation. Spock's on the bridge. What was he doing? Standing there for 3 days while she got there? It's too far to communicate with Starfleet. It takes bloody days to communicate with Starfleet. But T'Pring gets there bloody instantly. What's she use? A bloody wormhole? I don't get it. The common sense is just missing in this episode. The character of Dr. Aspen, why she doesn't just try a different way, a different approach of getting him out of this rehabilitation facility, I'll never know. I apologise if the rant was somewhat incoherent, but this episode did not impress me at all. It really did not. There was just so much wrong with it. You know, it's nothing we haven't seen before. But it's nothing we haven't seen before with new Star Trek. Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek Discovery. It's just there. As you can see, this episode frustrated me. If you don't like my reviews, then I appreciate you coming and watching what I do. I don't hate new Trek. I'm not a new Trek hater. I want to like it. And I think a lot of people, a lot of Star Trek fans would love new Star Trek because it's new Star Trek. They want to introduce new Star Trek. They want to write new stuff for us. Go ahead, write new stuff. There's a lot of people out there who want to like what you're doing, but they don't. There's some highlights to be had, absolutely. But when you write stuff like this, you're just proving that you've got no talent. You've got no direction. You just going, let's do that. Let's do that again. You can't be arsed. You said you put effort in this time, and for the beginning of this season, you didn't do a bad job. But now you've just gone downhill again, and the problems are setting in again. And I'm not looking for them. You know, I don't want to have to switch my brain off for Star Trek. I want my brain to be invigorated and switched on and to be, you know, exercised. Because that's what Star Trek did. It exercised your brain. This is just mindless bloody drivel. And I don't care about the love triangle between Spock, T'Pring and Chapel. It's not what I watch Star Trek for. What I watch Star Trek for is interesting philosophical questions. You had the contrast between Spock's battle with his half-human and half-Vulcan side and modern-day identity politics. And they wanted to shove that in. You can do that. It doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when you write an episode so piss poor that mushes my brain. And it's so stupid and so contrived and everything has to happen for a reason. You know, how this character managed to convince the Enterprise? There's no vetting done, no security checks. She assumed the identity of someone. Why didn't they bloody check? Oh... Anyway, that's enough of me ranting. This episode genuinely infuriated me. I apologise if it's not a particularly fair review. There may be some other YouTubers out there that do a better job than me. I don't know, but I wanted to get my fucking frustrations out about this episode because it was just nonsensical, absolutely nonsensical. That's enough of me prattling on. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you like what you see. Until next time, until next week, let's see what that brings. You look after yourselves, you look after one another, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now. I need the silence, stop the violence of the war in my head. Time's the healer. Eraser of all done and said. And as I fall back to my shelter, I know I'll only find peace in your smile.